So I say to the scarab, it's like, what do you want to say to me? You're not going anywhere. And I'm not afraid of the scarab. And I'm literally alone in the belly of a cathedral in France with the crypt head of Mary Magdalene in front of me by myself. Everyone is sleeping. I wanted to just be in the dark with her. And then I just seen this thing. So the scarab says to me, you will restructure water with your hands. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Back and forth, back and forth. I said, what do you have? You will restructure water with your hands. They're relentless about it.
Welcome to the Enchanted Earth Podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own. So welcome everybody. Today we have with us Tammy Marshall, and let me tell you a little bit about Tammy. Tammy identifies as water. Seeker of truth, entrepreneur, biohacker, gerontologist, and waterkeeper. For over 30 years, Marshall has been relentless in merging the worlds of Western medicine and Mother Nature together to help individuals experience greater health and well-being. So welcome, Tammy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Before we we want to, well done. Well done, sister.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
reaching out to some of the people, the folks that I know that, so really nice, beautifully done.
oh, thank you. Thank you. It was a labor of love, as you could probably tell. And I'm excited to connect with you. It's been a little while, and I'm sure all of the listeners are curious about you identifying as water. So I think we need to start there.
Okay. I think that's great because one of our very first initial meetings was on my land, and you introduced me to the concept of a blind spring on my property. And so now it helped me understand how and why I even chose that land to live there, because over the past 4.5 years, maybe 5, I have developed a relationship with water and her with me that without it, I probably would not have moved through my experiences that I've had over the last 5 years with loss and grief. And she, water, brought to me an awareness that the more that I had a relationship with her, the more I fell in love with myself. Because what I know and what you know and what I hope most people know is that we're 75% water, 99% water molecularly, or a little bit of salt and a little bit of minerals. So for me, it's to say that if you don't have a relationship with water, you don't have a relationship with self, because what you see here is some flesh. But when I'm identifying with you, and now when I identify with myself, I know that I'm talking with my waters, because there's nothing really much else to me aside from my waters. And so when I'm looking at you, I'm connecting with your waters. In fact, I'm connecting with lineages of your waters, because, we're all mer people in a sense, because we came from an amniotic sac of water. So to me, it's not mysterious that people connect with mermaids. And so I relate now much more to the folk, if you will. I don't think it's folklore. I think there's story embedded in it, but I do believe, it's not a belief anymore. It's a knowing that we, and if we stop and think about it, it would be a knowing for everyone. We literally came into the world like a mer person. And when we came out of the womb, we developed all the other things. So that's why I identify with water, and I take care of her and I don't put my water where I don't want my waters, things like that. And it's taught me a level of self-love that surpassed any other kind of love that I've ever had.
That's so beautiful, Tammy. And I know you have been very deeply connected to water, probably for most of the time I've known you. And what's fascinating to me is there's so much more out there about how water is consciousness. And it's like compressed light or like it is so much more mystical than we even realize.
Yeah, we're crystalline beings, crystalline structures. What makes it crystalline is just what you said. So H2O, some hydrogen and oxygen, and then photonic light. So the light that you're talking about, that photonic light meets hydrogen and oxygen. And for some and myself, that's intuition, that's consciousness, that's a realm that without the light and without the water, um, the impressions that you get when they meet, you get impressions. Impressions are intuition. Impressions are stored memory. So the whole world is remembering that they're water. And the more you work with water, around water, structure your water, the more remembering. And every day in profound ways, um, I am remembering her and teaching others to remember her, which is really the only reason why I spend time on podcasts, because I especially want people to notice her. So the degree that you can notice water, respect water, not as a tool to drink or an element that you use to clean and cook and all, to be revered. Because again, I think it's corollary to the degree that you love her, it's how you love yourself. She's reflecting a mirror to you all the time. If you ignore her, you're ignoring self.
Yeah, and I think it makes so much sense to me that nature is becoming more conscious just as we are. It's a process of evolution of our consciousness. And not to say that, I mean, nature's always been sentient, but there's more of an awareness and consciousness of all beings. And just like we can develop a relationship with a tree, people kind of recognize that, that are open to experience and have an open heart. Many people have had experience with a tree, kind of just connecting, or maybe even receiving impressions from the tree of um, some kind of emotion or recognition or message. And to translate that to water, it's a little more foreign in a way. Like, I haven't really heard many people talking about that. It's starting to really come up now about this consciousness of water and our connection to it. And I guess what I'm just saying is just the act of acknowledging sentience is gold. It's
Mhm.
to be aware of water as a sentient being, or I don't know if there's a better word for that, because it's not like a tree. We could say tree is like a being, but water's everywhere.
And I would say, and I love trees. I have a profound connection with trees, especially one tree in particular that is a no-fail friend of mine. But what I know now about the tree is that, and you and me and everyone else and all of the trees, those trees are alive because of the water. And take away the water. So what I feel like I'm experiencing in willow tree number 136 in Washington Park in Colorado, which is my sacred tree. And she's right in front of a pond, and now it all makes sense. It didn't 5 years ago, but it does now. Her willow branches would wave and talk to me. And I mean, when I say I was at the darkest hour of my heart breaking open, the tree would talk, right? And now I know that I was talking with the waters of her tree because that tree doesn't exist. The thing about water and all the other elements, I give fire, wood, earth, all the other elements, air, which is a lot water. I give all of them their presence and due because they're beautiful. But none of those, aside from fire, happen without the support of water. So I, all the trees, I mean, my blood is made of the trees. This is why I can talk to the trees, right? The trees that are soaking in that water come up through my well and I drink that. And you drink that, or whoever drinks that, right? When you get close to nature or spring water or high mountain water, you're literally drinking the tree knowledge because it's the roots that are there. Like it's all to me. And sometimes I know people say everything is water for you, but it truly is. It truly is. Even the tree, because the tree is made of water, and she is talking with. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And yes, it the everything uh, has water, and water is consciousness. So that is what is the sense
talking
of
to the
consciousness.
tree. That's what you're
Excuse me?
hearing. That's what you're hearing in the tree. When your tree is talking to you, that you're hearing that consciousness.
Wow. It is so profound. And I'm just excited for these times because there's so much ancient information, ancient wisdom that is really being revealed to us. And it's just so exciting.
Yeah, and we have a duty to pass it on. We have a duty. You're doing this duty, right? I try to do it in my own way, but I feel like we have a duty uh, to pass on what we know and to help everyone learn how to create, co-create, and revere water. Because just mer, mother, earth, right? The root word is mer, that means mother, the mother. And again, it all is going back to that womb and amniotic sac. So the more we can connect with that lineage, because I would even say that people are, you're saying people are coming online, right? They're getting into the water, like they're just remembering who they really are. So the whole movement is a remembrance. It's not the land that has ever forgotten. It's us. The land has never forgotten. She's never created a wound she couldn't heal. And she's just there waiting for you to recognize her.
Yeah, I was just rereading Dr. Masaru Emoto's book, which started the awakening for me of water, and I think many people, about the sentience of it. And are you familiar with Dr. Vader Austin's work on
Studying
crystals, which is like taking his work and really moving forward?
her crystallography probably was maybe 4 years ago, something that I couldn't refute anymore. So for instance, you've been in my house, in my kitchen. I have layers of Petri dishes I've been doing. I don't know how long I've known her, but at least 5 years. And, I can now in print, I could send you some photos, but the day that it all, like, I couldn't refute it for me was I just held my Petri dish in my hand. She has a very systematic way to do this, where it is in the dish and so forth. And I can give you the links to that if your viewers want to see it. And I would say that's a great place to start to play with water. But I put the Petri dish in my hand and I ask water, who am I? And you place it in the fridge for the amount of time that is recommended. Pull it out. And she wrote my name, Tammy. And I just stood, I mean, even now. So of course, we're taught to hold that up to the light, take the photos. I send it in. You send all your photos to Veda and she posts them. You don't want to believe it's true. So she asked you to post it and let everyone else tell you what they see, because I know what I saw. And everyone, my name, Tammy, and from then on, I was like, a little like, wow, what am I dealing with? And then now I use it as the medicine. Like if I'm ever, even before this, I was out in the ocean singing the water song, preparing for this. I'm never not working with her, because she's me and I want to be working with myself. She noticed me, so I made a commitment to her that day to never ignore my own intuition, my own knowing. No more gaslighting.
Oh, Tammy, that is so beautiful. And I am really excited um to uh to do some of that work. And I'm sure you inspired some of the listeners to look into how to do that.
You're evil.
That is just so amazing. Now I'm really curious, and I usually ask my guests, can you tell me about your childhood? But I'm curious if there was a strong theme of water in your childhood.
I had an experience 8 years old sitting by a river, and this all leads into the river work that I'm doing on the grid now, which I didn't know anything about. It all goes back. Are you familiar with Dr. Fred Grover? He wrote a book. He did some work with Lemurian crystals on the grid, and I didn't know he existed. But 8 years old, sitting by the river, and I heard the river say to me then, didn't know anything about it at 8. I had no clue what was happening, that it was meant for something great. And you don't tell people that, because that sounds like really like you don't tell people that's what you heard. But I did tell my grandmother, and I did tell my friend Karen. And she would tease me for all the years. Oh, you're meant to be, you think you're great, you remember something great. But in this little thing, I was like, great doesn't have to be what other people make great. Great is, to me now, great is listening to my own voice. That's great. I don't need, great can be someone else's measurement. My measurement of greatness now is like, I don't listen with this anymore. To be honest, I don't even listen here anymore. I listen with my womb. This is cognitive knowing. This is emotional knowing. This is knowing. This is like, so if I have something I'm working with, what's my head say? Is my heart aligned? Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do. When there's not congruence here, I'm always, and I'm teaching this to all age groups of women and men, because men carry the energetic womb of their mother, which is why lineage work is incredibly important. But I get my knowing from my waters. That's where my knowing is like, people often say, what does your heart tell you to do? Your heart is confusing. It's an emotional vessel. It has a truth to it. I'm not saying that your heart doesn't have a truth to it, but my understanding now in my own direct experience is that my root and my womb and the waters there know, and can like short circuit these other two things that can be confusing, if that makes sense. But the river at 8 is when I had my first, and then 5 years ago, and I keep referencing it, I don't even remember now. This is the irony of it. I had this, I call it now my heart being broken open. I used to say my heart was broken, but I don't say that anymore. I think it was an explosion of grace. And now that I have worked with a variety of people, including yourself, to restructure my land, my home, my heart, my life, I see that as the many people say, right, the best thing that could have ever happened, and it's still unfolding. But that was the experience at 8. But the word river followed me for the last 5 years, like obsessed. And I didn't have I just kept writing the word river, 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 river. And one day in France, this little scarab beetle walked in front of me. I was in the crypt of Mary Magdalene, and the beetle scarab, and I was like, gosh, that's interesting. But by that time, I knew I could talk to animals. So as I was already talking to blue jays, I was talking to redbirds. I knew I could talk to animals at that point. So I say to the scarab, it's like, what do you want to say to me? You're not going anywhere. And I'm not afraid of the scarab. And I'm literally alone in the belly of a cathedral in France with the crypt head of Mary Magdalene in front of me by myself. Everyone is sleeping. I wanted to just be in the dark with her. And then I just seen this thing. So the scarab says to me, you will restructure water with your hands. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Back and forth, back and forth. I said, what do you have? You will restructure water with your hands. And relentless about it. So it's in my journal, and I don't think much about it. I'm talking with the different people about, messages from Mary Magdalene. Fast forward a year, I go on a river, crystal river retreat for the divine feminine. And I'm sitting next to a woman named Mary Tobin. She's a beautiful blue rose lineage teacher of Mary Magdalene. And she says to me, oh, by the way, I got a message for you. I said, she said, come in this room. Everybody got to go in the room. We go in there. Everyone else was in there for like minutes. Like I was like, oh, they're in there. They're really getting a lot. I go in, I'm in 2 minutes. I come out 2 minutes in there. She sits and she puts her hand on me. She starts crying. I'm not sure what's happening. She said, Mary, I want you to know you're going to restructure water with your hands. This is a year after. So I'm bawling because now I cannot argue that. And so once I got the this is what it is, I started really working with water, hydromancy, like divination of water. It's like Emoto's work with words, but it's more immersing yourself in water, becoming a droplet of water, and waiting for the message. And when I started doing that, I would get a river name and a location, and then a key spot in that location. For example, and this has happened to me now 8 or 9 times. The first time I heard, I'll just say the last one. I heard Connecticut River. Never been there, never heard of it. And then I heard Cricket Restaurant. And now I know that I just Google the Connecticut River and I Google Cricket Restaurant, and they're usually right on top of each other. So she always gives me the river she wants me to go to, a landmine, that like a location spot. So the long story is I always get a river, I get a landmark. And what I've learned over time in visiting these is that they're always connected to a burial mound of some kind. This is what's happening. I thought it was, like I was just following the message because now I, at this point, have had enough experiences that I didn't argue with it. But last year I found the book, the first page of the book by Dr. Fred says, I come from a cardiologist. I'm a medical physician, but I hear voices that tell me where to go in water and put crystals down. And when I read, I'm like, oh my God, this happens to me, because the other piece that happens is I was told to put moldavite there. So that's what I do. I get a message. I could be walking down the street. I'll hear a river. I write it down. I wait. I'll get a landmark. And now I take people with me to do it. I took my son. I got a message to go to a river in Colorado. He didn't believe a word of it. Not a word. You're crazy. His girlfriend was with us. And I said, no, I don't know where it is. I just know the river, and I see this image of a carriage that takes wheelchairs down to the water. And mind you, it's Christmas time. And he's like, Mom, this does not exist. But they're always at a confluence of 2 rivers. That's the other thing that happens. So sure enough, we meander way, way back, snow-covered roads. And he's, I can see him being patient with me, but I'm feeling it getting closer. We turn the corner. There's the wheelchair ramp. He's like, yes, there's a wheel. So he now sees that the impression comes from water. I have to follow it. I have to flow with her. If I don't, it keeps me up. So I have to get these, I have to lay the grid. I just talked for a long time, but that's the whole kind of way that water has shown up, and how she's asking me to work with rivers. that initial 8-year-old river girl sitting there.
Oh, Tammy, I just love that connection. The river has been with you your entire life. I'm curious, how often do you get these messages, and has it been increasing of late?
It was. I was getting them very consistently, but I also am going through like what am I going to do next period? But my very next one is in Connecticut. So, and I got a date for it because I apologized to her. You know, I said I can't get there right now. Can you give me a date that and I do, and I got my date and I'll go. When I got the date for Shasta, it was crystal clear. I think I told you about that one. Um, I got May 9th and I would go with a woman. I didn't even know who it was, but it all came together that I went with a woman on May 9th without doing anything but listening. This is how it works. Remembering. And I just I got told to use my left hand. I used to put both hands in. I now have the crystal. I put it in my left hand. Sometimes she says I have to leave it. Sometimes she says I don't have to leave it. I always get up, go to a tree that's connected to the river and ask if I was done. And sometimes I'll get a message, but usually I'm on my waking hours in the early morning and I will hear it is done. Like whatever. When I was with my son in Denver, it was a frozen river. And so it took almost the whole night before I woke up and heard it is done. Meaning
So with the frozen river, did you just lay the crystal on top of the water?
my son was so struck that he saw the thing and he took stones and made they believe her overnight. And I have a video of it because it was a profound, I mean, they didn't go all the way. I take a drum and I sing a song. So, and I'd love for everyone to sing this song. So I'll send it to you or we can sing it because it's really, really good to teach. That's the whole desire of this podcast for me is that we're teaching at least one other person to structure their water and to create some type of song or ritual. There are Algonquin songs, there's indigenous nation songs, but there's 2 songs that I work with in the drum. So I was drumming while my son was like doing these, trying to get to the hole. But I went to and around the corner where there was a confluence. I'm always asked to go to the confluence. So, and then as soon as I'm there, I take my shoes off. I start my song and then I just wait and she'll tell me when to do it. I kind of am going way out like a lotus and coming in and like a lotus. So I hope it all lands. The main message is to create a relationship with water, which is to say, fall in love with yourself.
Yes, I want to open it in case you would like to sing one of your songs.
Okay.
Can I put you on the spot? You don't have to.
No, I will because, more than first of all, it is not my song. It belongs to the Algonquin Nation. And traditionally women sing this with a water drum. You can use an earth drum. Traditionally they sing it. You can sing it alone, but it's of course always more beautiful when you bring other men, women, and children to it. So lots of times I bring other people with me. I have 2 little girls that I usually take, and they know the water song like it's their first name. So, and that's my desire and hope and wish for everyone that they teach the song or listen. You can get it on YouTube also. But before that, can I just give like some quick things to think about with water? So for one, if you can smell your water, never drink it. Any water that you can smell, you should not drink it. So even if you can smell your faucet water, I don't recommend anyone drinking water you can smell it, right? So structure your water if you can. Easy thing. Put it in a cup over your heart, 30 seconds. Ask the water to restructure to the highest timeline for you. wait, and then drink it. If you have hydrogen tablets, water loves hydrogen. If you put hydrogen in your tablet, in your water, it's more oxygenated. You can get those online. Oxygenated water loves to be in your body. I feel it helps you remember at a different pace than you normally would. Those work like you're talking about, which is it's a form of hydromancy. Divination is just putting any water message on the water because you're leaving a memory for her. So one of the things that Veda now is discovering is that water has potential knowing. So here's an example. She put her finger in water, did her crystallography, came out, the fingernail had a chip in it when she saw it in the ice. 2 days later, the exact same chip showed up on her finger. So water was already seeing ahead of her the hydromancy of you're going to have a chip on your finger, right? So the water has a future potential, which is why if you put messages around your water, I would hope that if you're ever around anyone with your water bottle, if there's arguing going on, just give the water back to Mother Nature. Because on my life, it's all going back into you. If I'm in the tub, which I do tub every day, salt tub, if she calls me, I say to her, if you call me back, I don't take any phone call because people tell you things while you're in the, like, oh,
Yes.
you'll never know. So-and-so had cancer. And I'm like, got to empty the tub. I got to get out. Like, just like that. Right. And
Yes.
so being mindful of what you're talking about around water.
Yes.
If you ever are in a hospital setting, God forbid, and you're seeing the IV bags, I just did this with my dad. I write everything I want to go into his body on the tubing, I am sending in what I want to go into him. But I think it's the future of medicine. Think about it. The first thing you do when you get sick in a hospital is they put an IV bag in you. They hydrate you.
Yeah.
Somewhere somebody knows that that's the ticket for your well-being. You always get hydration. If you get nothing else, they put an IV in you. I'm a nurse too, so I know that. So talk to your water over your heart. You can put crystals in your water to restructure it. The materials that your body likes is linen and silk because structurally, this is the most structural affinity to water. It doesn't like polyester. It doesn't like, it doesn't love cotton. It loves linen and like silk, mulberry silk, because I can get more messages if I create less barrier for her.
Yes.
Because this is like, again, I'm just 75% floating here. You're just seeing this form. So if I put anything in the way of her, I'm not in flow, right? That's what silk flows.
Yes.
Structurally like water. So high springs, great. Now, if I were ever to get sick, God forbid, or anybody, I would go to the highest mountain spring I can and just keep immersing myself into it because I know that's all I need now. So High Mountain Springs, there's a Google app or an app that says Find My Spring. You probably know about that app.
Yes.
You can go there and just play around with drinking it. Just see what it's like. And just want to make sure 'cause I really care about this. I think that's it for like the tips. One of the last things on that is take a Sharpie and go around your home and write the biggest impression words, like Emoto said, like gratitude, love, joy, and whatever else you're wanting in your home. Peace. So if you were to look in my cupboards, under my things, my water tank, my washer, any water source in my home, my tank out front, the blue cap, I have everything is covered with the message, gratitude, joy, love. So take a Sharpie, go all over your home. It doesn't have to be fancy, just write I love you on it. Or thank you. I'm grateful for you. And put it in. You can put it on tape, but I literally write it on there because it leaves. You can put stickers on. There's lots of ways to do it, but it will change Restructure. There are lots of little gadgets you can buy. You see things now that restructure your water, and they're all fine and dandy. None of them are going to hurt you. Some of them are more effective, depending on how much more hydrogen they can develop. But it's just consistency to keep doing it. But once you realize and fall in love with yourself, because it's an act of self-love, you won't be able to drink out of a plastic bottle anymore. You won't be able to be around an argument and want to. I literally cannot drink the water. Like, I just don't. That you can't anymore. The people that might find this to be like out there, just start with something small. Just start with something small. So the song is an Algonquin song, and it's teach it to young people, or at least one other person if you can, and it's also online, and it says Ibi Wabo Endayan Aki Nisku Ibi Wabo Heya 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 Heya. Oh. That's how it goes. That's the end. And she loves it. And it's on the you can get it online. We can close out with it.
I know for me, and I am sure listeners, it feels like a remembrance. It feels so right and so normal.
Yes.
And it doesn't take expensive equipment.
No.
All it takes is coming at it with the heart, with openness, with love and gratitude. And that's all. That's all the land needs, the water needs.
Yeah.
And fellow human beings.
And we've just scratched it. We've just started scratching open what all of it is going to mean one day but singing to her and noticing her is healing for her too. Just like any human. The Thich Nhat Hanh would say, like, the greatest act of violence against another human being is to ignore them. And when you ignore the plant, it dies. When you ignore the child, it dies. When you ignore water, which is ignoring yourself and your intuition, she dies. A little bit every time you ignore your intuition. If someone tries to say you're crazy, or no, I wasn't doing this, or some gaslight movement, like, no, you were meant to remember, and you have a knowing, and it's a gift. And the more you honor her, the more she will give back to you.
Okay. Let me go to YouTube. And what is it called?
Sing the Water Song. One of the things, as it's playing, like, the answer comes out of the air, they say. The answer comes out of the air and the water.
Now, we had some technical difficulties here, so I've added a link to the YouTube in the show notes. I am so grateful for them sharing that beautiful song, which I will learn. And I'm sure it inspires others to learn it as well. I feel like we were all just blessed.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
So, Tammy, as we close out this conversation, it has been really magical and remarkable. And I just want to say from my heart, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, for being vulnerable enough to share the truth of who we are and this really important time in our evolution.
Thank you. Total honor to her, to self, and I really hope everyone teaches at least one person about water in any way that feels right.
Well, Thank you, everybody, for listening. And yes, please do, as Tammy suggests, share this video, share this information with at least one other person. And so simple to just take our water, to honor it, put it to your heart, share your love and gratitude, and then drink it.
And know that it's you loving you. If thinking about water's too far out there, just keep telling yourself, I'm 99% water molecularly, I'm 75% water structurally, a little bit of salt, a little bit of mineral. So I'm loving myself if I love water. And you'll find it very interesting if you're not able to do it and to work with that.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Tammy.
everybody.
And I look forward to connecting again.
Come to my Vine Spring, you know exactly where it is. I didn't even talk about the fairy circles. Bye. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so that you'll know when we publish another inspiring episode. Check out my book, The Enchanted Earth, available wherever online books are sold. Thank you and have a magical day.